They can torture you and make you say anything. They can't make you believe it.
Hey! Get her! Get her off him now!
Remember me.
George Orwell, who was born in 1903 and spent most of his life in England, grew up witnessing the increasingly intensive world wars. It was no wonder where he developed the inspiration for 1984, a book where the world is constantly in a state of war and the citizens begin to lose freedoms as the government gains power. Orwell, as he described in the interviews, felt the imminence of a soon-to-be government-controlled society and wrote down in his books the critical themes such as tyranny, sexual perversion, suppression, submission, and more.
All writers are vain, selfish, and lazy. And at the bottom of their motives there lies a mystery.
And so you have no control over what you write?
Writing a book is a horrible, exhausting struggle, like a long bout with some painful illness. One would never undertake such a thing if one were not driven by some demon one can neither resist nor fully comprehend.
1984, with its thought police, Room 101 and Big Brother, has given us a language with which we can defy oppression. What demon drove you to dream up 1984?
I do not think one can assess a writer's motives without knowing something of his early development. His subject matter will be determined by the age in which he lives. But before he ever begins to write, he will have acquired an emotional attitude from which he will never completely escape.
George Orwell created this novel with the purpose to warn about totalitarianism and to make the public aware of the freedoms they possess. The protagonist in the novel, Winston, originally shares the same views as Orwell, but gets brainwashed near the end of the novel in Room 101. The novel shows that the government can obtain enough power to manipulate anybody, even someone as firm in their beliefs as Orwell.
Julia!
Get up. Stand up straighter. Look me in the face. Tell me, Winston, and remember, no lies. What are your true feelings towards Big Brother?
I hate him.
You must love him. It's not enough to obey him. You must love him. Room 101.
1984 became an instant classic that was received very well by the general public when it was released around World War II, a time when many could relate to the feeling of government suppression. The book is considered a classic to this day because of our lingering wariness to war and government suspicions. However, if Orwell had released this today, he most likely would have done so in a movie in order to appeal to the masses. As a movie, he could have reached his audience to educate them and warn them about the dangers of a totalitarian government.
Again, I was struck by how affecting Winston is as a character, as a man.
Orwell wanted to call the book originally The Last Man in Europe, not 1984 at all. It's interesting to speculate actually whether it would have been such an iconic book if he'd called it that. But that's what Winston Smith is. He's the last man, he's the last survivor of another era, vaguely, desperately trying to remember a time before the party had taken over everything. And I think in those aspects he is someone that the reader relates to. I can't think of another work of fiction, certainly a work of fantasy like this, in which the hero is so very plainly the author. I mean, there's no difference at all between George Orwell and Winston Smith. He didn't really bother to imagine a character. I don't think. He simply put himself into the novel, and all the physical descriptions, the ailments. I mean, this is a hero with varicose veins, a terrible hacking cough. I mean, Orwell was dying of TB when he wrote the book. He's a hero who is misogynistic. There's a really startling line in it where he says Winston Smith hated all women, especially the young and pretty ones. And Orwell himself was a bit of a misogynist. So in all these ways, he's very much not your classic hero. But in terms of the book, he really does function as a hero.
Radical experts such as Alex Jones claim that both 1984 by George Orwell and A Brave New World by Aldous Huxley predict a government takeover, although through very different means. Jones states that our current society is matching Orwell's predictions, as we, the people, are being dumbed down through the media and other government-controlled means, as well as Huxley's prediction, which holds that the government will blind us with drugs and glitz of technological advances.
The New World Order is here to devolve and to rip apart and to trample and to stampede humanity. It is a panopticon system to turn the world into a control freak, sadistic, psychopathic paradise. A paradise of evil, a paradise of blood and torture and pain and humiliation. In fact, guys, Google for me, search engine for me, 1984 and the term trampling and being trampled on. I want that full O'Brien quote when he finally breaks Winston, and that's their religion. And he leans over Winston when Winston now believes 2 + 2 = 5. Because freedom is the ability to say 2 + 2 = 4. That really is freedom. And he leans over and he says, now you see, Winston, we are the priest of power, always pressing on the nerve of power. You know, you look at my body, the torturer says, the inner party member, as he leans over Winston, the little newspaper propagandist from the Ministry of Truth. And he says, you look at the lines in my face and the blood vessels in my eyes and how I look like the life is going out of me. But that's the vigor of the overall species, the psychopathic uber species that's going to just tear down humanity, stomp on humanity, annihilate humanity, just driving over it, stomping on the human face forever. And Orwell had been a secret policeman in India. He'd fought for the communists, found out that was all rigged. He'd been a top propagandist at BBC during the war. And I've read just so many of his essays and letters where he was talking about this is the real world, this is what they're building. But Huxley came along before he died and gave that Berkeley speech and admitted it's all real. The UN plans to drug you, dumb you down. My brother, runs a lot of it at UNESCO. Julian Huxley. And Orwell had it wrong. It's going to be a trudging black ski mask, boot on the face, but with an overlay of glitz and glamour and entertainment and drugs and drugging and genetic engineering. And in our world, there will be no emotions except fear, rage, triumph, and self-abasement. Everything else we shall destroy, everything. Already we are breaking down the habits of thought which have survived from before the revolution. Yeah, they're reducing the language down where people can't even communicate. We have cut the links between child and parent, and between man, and between man and woman. No one dare trust his wife or a child or a friend any longer. But in the future, there will be no wives and no friends. Remember, I played that clip from North Korean slave camp where they take them and then let them breed for 1 week a year or 5 days and then separate the children. I mean, this is domestication. That's 150 years ago, the British tacticians openly said this was the game plan. And 150 years later, it's here. We're now entering it. We have cut the links between child and parent, and between man, and between man and woman. No one dares trust a wife or a child or a friend any longer. But in the future, there will be no wives and no friends. Children will be taken from their mothers at birth, as one takes eggs from a hen. The sex instinct will be eradicated. Procreation will be an animal formality. And notice porn's actually making people not enjoy it now, and to make it a reflex, like going to the bathroom. No passion, no love. Procreation will be an annual formality, like the renewal of a ration card. We shall abolish the orgasm. Our neurologists are at work upon it now. There will be no loyalty except loyalty towards the party. There will be no love except the love of Big Brother. There will be no laughter except the laugh of triumph over a defeated enemy. There will be no art, no literature, no science. When we are omnipotent, we shall have no more need of science. There will be no distinction between beauty and ugliness. There will be no curiosity, no enjoyment of the process of life. All competing pleasures will be destroyed. But always, do not forget this, Winston, always there will be the intoxication of power, constantly increasing and continually growing subtler. Always, at every moment, there will be the thrill of victory, the sensation of trampling on an enemy who is helpless. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever.
The book concludes with Winston losing the battle against Big Brother when his mind is altered permanently through electroshock therapy and traumatizations.
But in reality, the party always wins. I love Big Brother,